10 times better. We're going to take those Bose stickers off and put Alpine ones on. What's up guys? Today we're going to be walking through how to bypass the factory amplifier in a Porsche 996. This is the system that runs the fiber optic input to the amplifier. If we look at a lot of companies that supply the retention product, connects to Pack Audio, they don't actually sell anything for the 996. They sell one for the model after, and yeah, pretty much nothing for the 996. So you're only left with two options. Find an equivalent product online, which our customer did do, and I'll walk through the problems with that, or bypass it completely. We did already fit a 702D Alpine. You can fit any head unit that you like. It needs to have 3 pre-outs. I know they're not here, they come on a fly lead, but it does need to have 3 pre-outs, so your front, rear, and sub pre-outs. And yeah, I'll quickly walk you through what is involved in removing the head unit, but it's already been pulled out. This will be more so just the bypass of the amplifier. So let's look at that. And if we just look in the front here, that is right where the factory amplifier is located. And looking at the side here, we can see this is our output to the speakers, and that is your input right there, which is fiber optic, and it's very hard to intercept. And this is where the radio normally sits. So the Alpine that we looked at with the factory mounting brackets, that sits right in here, and it's held in with these 4 Torx 20 bits. And then there's basically another panel, a beauty panel that goes around here that has some plugs on it. So it's pretty easy to remove. You just take this surround off first, and then it will expose the screws, and then you can get that out. So like I said, we already did the head unit installation, and our customer supplied this product right here that he found online. And what this does is basically takes RCA level or low level and reads it and does the work to send the fiber optic signal to the factory amplifier. Now the problem with that was when he would turn the key off, the speakers all popped really loud. So turn it on, sounds fine, it actually works. You lose your fader because it only takes a two channel input. So that's fine, he wasn't too fussed about the fader, but the main problem was turning the speakers off or the car off, the speakers would go boom, make a popping sound. Not very pleasant at all. So what we're going to do is bypass the factory amplifier, and I'll show you what products we're going to use. Okay, so why can't we just run the speaker wires from the head unit to this area here and power the speakers from the factory head unit? The problem with that is the head unit only has 4 outputs for 4 speakers. This vehicle has speakers in the back, speakers on the dash, and speakers in the doors. So it has at least 6 speakers, and there's only 4 outputs. So you're going to be missing something somewhere. That's the first problem. Second problem is the power output from the head unit isn't the same as the power output from the factory amp. It's probably lower, and it won't run the speakers properly. They won't sound as good. It sort of defeats the purpose. That's where these come into place. These are great. Now these run at 4 or 2 ohms. So a lot of factory amplified systems run at 2 ohms. This will detect 4 or 2, so it doesn't matter. And yes, it is only 4 channels, but we have 2 of them. So 2 of these amps will run all of the speakers in the car. They actually give you 8 speakers you could run, but there's 6 in this car. And all we need to do is basically plug it in, run the RCAs to the head unit, plug them in. Okay, so we'll be running 6 RCAs, or 3 pairs, and that will be front, rear, and a sub channel. The speakers in the doors are woofers. They're just 2 little woofers. They're subs, basically. And then that's going to be the signal, and then we're going to hardwire the output of this amp to where the output of that amp was going. But obviously we'll do this in depth. So first thing I'm going to do is start running some cabling, and I'll touch back with you when we have that done. Alright guys, this is the factory amp. Now to remove that, there's 2 10mm nuts that go right there, and then the whole thing slides up and out, and then we can unplug that. It just has a little pin on it, and the outputs of the amp have a plug on it that just slide up and out, just like that. And we'll utilize the factory bracket for the new amplifiers so they can sit in the same spot, but we won't need that plug anymore, or that one. Okay, right here I've made the loom. This is the RCA loom. So I've got 3 RCAs tapped on. I've just taped all that up to make a loom. There goes my light. And what I've done here, I've got normal tape on one, fabric on the other, and nothing on the other. So this is, and then on the other end it's the exact same. So that's going to tell us I can do normal tape to fronts, you know, fabric tape to rears, and then that to woofers, and that saves you a lot of time later on when you're testing. Or you can mark them with a bit of tape and write on them, whatever you need, just something so you know. Okay, then what we want to do, these panels here, just slide out. There's one clip and one Torx 25, and that will just slide out. You don't need to remove that side, I did, but you don't have to. And then what we're going to do basically is grab one end of our RCAs, run it through the factory spot, behind the battery, up around here, and there's a factory loom right there you can tap onto, and right here you can get into the vehicle through a rubber grommet. I'll get you a closer look at that. Okay, so once you got that cabling through right behind that pipe, there's a rubber grommet right there, my finger's on it, and it's a little bit hard to see, but it is there, it's right here. Okay, there it is right there. And then basically what you can do is pierce that grommet with a hole, so you can use like a pole or something thin and sharp to pierce a hole, or you can use a knife and cut it. Okay, now what I did was, I used a tool like this to poke through the grommet to find where there's going to be no wiring in our way. And I actually had to drill through, it's a bit hard to see, but I had to drill through the grommet there, making sure I was away from the factory wiring, because the loom's that's a very thick grommet, and the loom is quite thick, you'll never pull it through. Just using something like that, you'll never get through. Even if you cut it, you'll never get through. The grommet is very thick, and this isn't common in a lot of cars, obviously common in this Porsche. So what we had to do, grab a drill, make sure we're away from all the factory wiring, drill a hole, and the hole was smaller than the loom. So we did have to use lubrication and push the RCAs through one at a time, and then pull the loom through, and what that does is it blocks that hole up completely, because we've made the hole a little bit smaller than the loom. And then the rest of the wiring we can go ahead and run to the radio. We're going to run that underneath here with the factory looming, and then it goes all the way up to the radio. That's really nice and easy to do. Okay, we've now run the cabling up to the head unit from underneath there. Like I said, it goes right through there. It's very, very easy to run that through, and you can zip tie it to the factory loom. Once it comes up to here, you can plug your RCAs into your either head unit, or if you've got an Alpine, you've got this harness here that has all of the RCAs coming off of it. So we've done front, rear, and sub. Okay, and that blue wire there, that connects to this loom here, and there's a blue wire coming off that. That is the remote wire. So when this wire gets 12 volts, it tells the amp to turn on. Okay, so you always connect that to your remote. And then that is basically inside the vehicle done. So what we can do, tape this up, make a bundle out of that, tuck it out of the way, make it look nice and neat, and we can go over to the engine bay, or frunk I should say. Alright, next up we'll be looking at the factory loom, and basically it's pretty straightforward. You've got a fat brown, that's going to be your ground wire, fat red, that's your constant power, and then we've got a couple of other wires, but mainly twisted pairs. So each twisted pair is a speaker. So what we're going to do is strip each side, and we're going to use a speaker popper, and that's just a AA battery, 2 bare ends. Touch each wire and it will pop a speaker. So you might need someone to help you, and you can note down what each wire is connected to. Okay, so that's popping a speaker. You probably can't hear that, but that's what you need to do. So I'll get that done and I'll let you know what speaker is what. Okay, the plug has been chopped and we've separated all the wires. There's one wire here we're not going to use, so that can be taped up. Everything else we're going to utilize. This is the speaker situation. See if you can see that. Okay, so you can screenshot that if you need. That's what each wire does, and basically you're gonna have a color, and then the same color with a brown stripe. So we've got blue, and then blue with brown stripe, yellow, yellow, brown stripe, etc. Basically, the brown stripe is your negative. Okay, so that's a good thing about Euro cars. So we're not going to be out of phase because we know what our positive and negative are. And then we can, if you listen carefully, that's all I did to pop the speakers and test them. Okay, now with that done, what I'm going to do is grab our RCAs that we run through before. I'm going to run them into this section here, and I'm going to start wiring up the new amplifiers, and I'll show you how it all looks. Okay, I know this might look a little bit daunting, but let me explain what we've done. Right here is our new RCAs that we just run, and what we've done, we've got 2 amplifiers, which means we have 2 sets of input cables and 2 sets of output cables. So what I've done on one amplifier, we're going to run the 4 door speakers. So we're going to run the front doors and the rear, well they're not doors, but the rear speakers as well. So how that works is that goes in to here, and that's the input, okay? And there's also 2 blue wires. On this amp there's one, and on the other amp there's one. And I've connected them together, and that goes to the blue wire there that we connected to our head unit earlier. So that's done. Then we plug that in, and we've got front and rears all plugged in to the corresponding front and rears that we set up earlier on the head unit. And then on the output, so that gets signal from the head unit, and then it sends power to the speakers. So on the harness for this amplifier, if we plug that in, there's no powers done yet, so we're all good. That's going to now send out our power to the speakers. Earlier we tested what wire is what speaker in the vehicle, and with that information we've used the universal harness, or the universal side, to wire that up correctly. Okay, so this was the rear left door, or rear left speaker, and the universal rear left wiring chart is green. So green, solid green will go to solid white, green black will go to white brown. Okay, so there your negatives in line and your positives in line. Okay, grey here is obviously driver's door speaker, or to be the driver's dash in this case. So obviously brown to red, grey to red, grey black to red brown. Okay, I know, hopefully that makes sense. And then so on and so forth. Purple is your rear right, white is your front left. And that's the 4 main speakers done. And the powers, there's 2 harnesses because there's 2 amps. So we've just connected the powers together, and they will tap onto the powers from the original amp when we're ready for that. Okay, so that was one side of the amplifier done. And then the other amplifier is just going to those woofers in the doors, and we've used the front input for the amp. So on this side here, on the other input for the amp, it's on the front RCAs, and then obviously that's going to give power to the front outputs. So that's the front right and your front left door. And then on the amp there, you can tune that however you want with the front high pass filter on or off, and then that way we can pretty much set it up so it's sounding perfect. Okay, so we can play with the tuning later, and I'll let you know what we decide to go with. There's some gains on the amp as well, so pretty cool. Alright, that was the original plug. Just chop that off, don't need it. So what I'll do is solder these up. If anything doesn't make sense here, drop a comment below, or you can reach out to us at shoptfb.com. So now we'll do the powers and solder all this up, tape it up nicely, and then we can start testing. Now we've got all of those connections soldered up, and I've just quickly plugged in the 2 amplifiers, and what we'll do is go ahead and put the head unit back in the car, and we'll just do some basic testing quickly. Alright, what we're going to do, plug in the radio and just test what we've done so far. So we've got our new RCA section of our harness here. We've got the main power connector with a wire that needs to be taped up. We can do that when I get some tape in a minute. And all the other plugs from the installation. If you want to see a full head unit install, just drop a comment below, but we've not recorded that yet. All I want to do is get the power on and test the speakers and see where we're at. With the radio just sitting in place, we can go ahead and turn it on. Guys, with no tuning, just plugging them in and listening to this, insane. It probably won't come through on camera, but like, we got all of our speakers correct. Just as long as they know. It won't come through the mic, but damn, haven't even tuned it yet. It's insane. 10 times better. We're going to take those Bose stickers off and put Alpine ones on. Okay, so what does that mean? So far, that means all of the wiring side of things we've done is correct. Now we can remove the factory amp from the bracket. I'll show you how to do that. And we can mount the Alpine amps onto that bracket so it sits in the factory position. Tape up all the looms, make it look nice. And then do the tuning, of course. And what I like to usually do is tune the amps sort of conservatively, but enough so that our customer can do his tuning on the equalizer on the unit and it works perfectly. Okay? So we crank the amps up all the way, and then he's got basically no tuning here because as soon as he changes something, it's too loud or too much of one thing. If we do them sort of conservatively, set the gain properly, set our high pass filters, set whatever else we have to set, then he could play along with the settings in here, and it'll work perfect. So because we set up those door woofers as subwoofers, your front and rears fill up the cabin with all of the sound that you need, and those two woofers will actually work from the sub level control of the head unit. So if he can turn the sub up, which will then in turn increase the bass coming out of these woofers in the doors, and it will it sounds great. I already tested it before. So yeah, let's look at mounting those amplifiers. Okay, that's how easy it is to get the factory amplifier off. And then what we need to look at, we can basically go 1, 2, obviously the right way around, but that's just one way we can do it. Okay, so I've tuned both of these. That is one of them there. Give you an idea of how that's set up. This is the other one. Got to put the rubber back on the first one. So one of these is going to run, which one's this? This is high pass on. So this is running the 4 speakers. And the one we've set up with high pass off is running the doors. And we just tested it, and holy crap, it is insane. It's like 30 times better than factory. This is the mount, the factory mount, and I've drilled out all the mounting points for our new amps, and they're just going to sit here like so. Okay, so we'll have one there, and then when that's done, I'll show you what it looks like. Ba-boom, guys, look at that. That is looking absolutely beautiful. All set up and mounted. We've got our nice little mounting brackets there on the factory system, so that's just going to go boom, lock into place, and it looks like OEM. And we've got 2 Alpine amps juicing the hell out of that Bose system. What we'll do now is neaten up the wiring, get all the cables run to the right section, then we can pretty much mount this amplifier, or these amplifiers I should say. Alright, have a look at how that is looking. That is absolutely amazing. Some of the bulk we did have to tuck in front of the amp, so if you ever want to go and look down here, you can see a little bit of wiring. It is taped up, so it still looks nice. We've got all of our factory cabling going through there. We'll fix up this clip, put our mounting screws in, and that is pretty much the amp side of things finished. Alright guys, that is amp in position. Everything put back together. You'd never tell it was even touched. There's a little bit of wiring right there. It looks really clean. It's all taped up. And it sounds amazing. Guys, that is the complete system done. It has come up really, really good. I'm very impressed with the sound. If you're on the fence about this, I would say 100% do it. We first received this car when it was completely stock, so I've heard the factory sound system. We heard the factory sound system with trying to retain the amplifier with that little fiber optic retention box thing, which was rubbish. And now the last stage, which is factory speakers, aftermarket head unit, aftermarket amplifiers, which are hidden, so no one will know. This is the best sound. It probably should have sounded like this out of the box. It is insane. Like the bass, the mids, the highs, everything sounds so good. I wish you could hear it through camera. I'll try. That is very, very good. It sounds like we've changed all of the speakers in the car. If you have any questions regarding the installation, if there's anything that didn't make sense, drop a comment below. If you want to reach out to us, it's www.shoptfb.com. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.